Actually, our annual election, as many know, we have not been able to have quorum, so we have not been able to do the election in the last two meetings. So the first thing we will start with is our election. We have a script that we will be reading from. The first thing I would like to go, if you can just take attendance.
It's good evening, everyone. Diane Abrams,
Present.
Francine Almarsh,
Present.
Sinai Bethel Stanton,
Present.
Carolyn Castro,
Present.
Heather Daly,
Present.
Samira Reed,
Present.
Maggie Sanchez.
Present.
We do have a quorum. 7.
So with that, the fact that we have quorum, we will now conduct our election. The annual meeting is a separate meeting, which is only the business and where the only business is electing officials.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I put you back into some voting.
no.
So Rose, can you introduce the interpreters, please? I thought that was nice.
Can we please have the interpreters introduce themselves? Benito, you start.
Yes, good evening. The following message will be said in Spanish, offering Spanish and interpretation services. Buenas noches, yo Marisela junto a Benito estaremos ofreciendo servicio de interpretación en español. Por favor, marque al 347-966-4114. Ingrese el número de conferencia 756-942-858, símbolo numeral. Si desea escuchar audio en español, pero desea permanecer en esta sala de conferencia con Zoom, para poder ver la reunión usando su computadora, silencie su computadora y el volumen y marque su teléfono a la línea de conferencia en español. Nuevamente, la línea de conferencia en español es 347-966-4114 y ingresa el número de conferencia 756-942-858, símbolo numeral. Thank you.
Yes, and another necessary. That's the highest. Yeah, yes. Okay.
Everybody introduce?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just read the annual meeting is a separate meeting which the only business is the election of quorum. It must be convened and adjourned before moving on to business or council meeting. So at this time, we will have our annual meeting. And then afterwards, we will close that out and we'll start our calendar and business meeting. We need to elect a pro tem to run the election. Okay. So I'll turn it over to Patty.
If anyone cannot hear, please advise. Push this button. Chair Pro Tem, to elect officers, we will vote upon each position before moving on to the next, so that any candidate not elected to an office can run for others. I will take nominations. Members can nominate themselves. If a member is nominated by another member, I will confirm that he or she accepts the nomination. Nominations do not need to be seconded. If a member is not present but has submitted his or her nomination in writing to the AA or another member, he or she will be treated the same as any member who is present, including having a 2-minute statement read aloud as the voice. Following the candidate's presentation, we will conduct a roll call vote. All positions must be voted on, even if there are only one candidate. Where there are 2 or more candidates, each member must make a choice and vote for one or the other. John Doe and James Smith are running for president. On roll call, each member will vote for either John or Jane. The council must not vote first on John, then on Jane. Members may abstain from voting. If no candidate receives at least 6 votes for CPA, we will vote by show of hands on whether to do a second round and proceed to the elections for the next office. If a position remains unfilled over 2 or more rounds of voting, the incumbent will continue with that position. New elections for all unfilled positions must be put on the agenda of following month's calendar meeting until all the positions are filled. Is this procedure clear to all members? Yes. First, we will elect council presidents. Are there any nominations for the office of president?
I nominate Sanaya Beckles Canton for first president.
Yeah, it's.
Oh,
President-
and Francine Almash as second president. Co-president.
Ladies, do you accept the nomination?
Yeah. No, right. What else does anybody else wants?
Does anyone else have any nominations? Okay, you can vote. I don't know. So the nomination is closed. They have to have the name.
Yeah.
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 Okay, thank you for the nomination. I am excited for the opportunity to serve as president tonight. I've been a member of the council for previous term. I, like all members here, been a strong advocate for student with disabilities. And I work well together, and I'm excited to work with all the new members. And I hope that you agree.
Hi, everybody, I'm Sanaya Beckles Canton. I've been a member of this council for. Okay, great. This is my second term on the council, but I've been a member of the community education program in general. My first 7 years, and council for 2, it's going into my 3rd year. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to have a group of individuals who really want to support children with special needs, and I hope you give me the opportunity to work with you and serve you in any way that I can. And again, I thank you, Heather, for nominating me, and I appreciate all the work that you do. Anyone has a question for us? I do know that people are allowed to ask. We have to have a voice.
We have this.
We are voting for the co-presidents of Francine Almash and Dr. Sanaya Beckles Canton. Diane Abrams,
Yes.
Francine Almash,
Yes.
Sanaya Beckles Canton,
Yeah.
Carolyn Castro,
Yes.
Edna Berry,
Yes.
Tamara Reed,
Yeah.
Maggie Sanchez.
Yes.
We have
Absolutely.
Bevan, both, yes.
So you want to turn it back over?
Now I will push for pro temp right. 10 years. Sure. Okay, I'm relinquishing my pro temp duties. Okay, so the next position that we'll be electing to be the first vice president, the nominations for the first vice. Well, I will nominate myself. That's your nomination, and I have that. Thank you. Okay.
Is there any other nominations?
Okay, so close the nomination, close. Thank you. Thank you for the nomination. I don't think this is working.
It is.
Thank you for the nomination. My name is Carolyn Castro. I am a parent in District 4. I have been with CCSE for 2 terms now. Previous to that, I was in CDC 11 Bronx, and I was the chair of PEACE. Similar to the last discussion, I'm thankful to be surrounded by advocates who actually do advocacy work and who are passionate about representation for our student body. No, oh, I'm sorry. And I just want to say thank you to everyone, and we will continue to work and represent all of your students and the students across the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we are voting for the first vice president, and your candidate is Carolyn Castro, Diane Abrams,
Yeah.
Francine Almond,
Yes.
Samantha Beckers Canton,
Yes.
Carolyn Castro,
Yes.
Heather Bailey,
Yes.
Samira Reed,
Yes.
Maggie Sanchez.
Yes.
We have seven votes passed. Carolyn Castro is your first vice president. Congratulations.
Thank you. Can I just say something to our words of name and commentary and try to slow down? Because it's difficult to hear and the volume is low.
We have all of that, we can still have space, but we haven't had the front of we're all out of the field, so we're rushing through this. But we're just trying to make sure we have enough time to have the public comment as well as the rest of the meeting. So very outside, still trying to thank you. Earlier, we have our nomination for second vice president.
I would like to nominate Heather Bailey. I second that.
Oh, we don't need a second.
No.
Second.
Yes, I was going to.
Do we have any other nominations? I'll close the nomination. I'll close the nomination.
Yes, we are now voting for the second vice president, who is, candidate is Heather Daly, Diana Abrams,
Yes.
Francine Almond,
Yes.
Sanaya Canton,
Yes.
Carolyn Castro,
Yes.
Heather Daly,
Yes.
Samira Reed,
Yes.
and Maggie Sanchez.
Yes.
We have 7 yeses. You are now the second vice president. Pretty much on us.
We'll now move to the nomination secretary. We have the nomination.
I nominate Maggie Sanchez for recording secretary, because she brought a Robert's rules of order to this committee.
Please, the nomination.
It is my great honor to accept the nomination.
To entertain the nomination for the board of secretary. Those nominations.
Yes, we are voting for recording secretary, who is Maggie Sanchez, Diane Abrams,
Yes.
Francine Almond,
Yes.
Sanaya Beckers Canton, Carolyn Castro,
Yes.
Heather Daly,
Yes.
Samira Reed, Maggie Sanchez.
Yes.
We have 7 voted yes. When the recording secretary is Maggie Sanchez. Congratulations.
And then position of the treasurer, many nominations for treasurer. I would like to nominate Diane. I accept the nomination. Are there any other nominations? Okay, nominations are now closed.
We're now voting for your treasurer. Candidate is Diane Abrams. Diane Abrams,
Yes.
Francine Almond,
Yes.
Sanaya Beckers Canton,
Yeah.
Carolyn Castro,
Yes.
Heather Daly,
Yes.
Samira Reed,
Yes.
Maggie Sanchez.
Yes.
All right, we have 7 voting yes. Your new treasurer is Diane Abrams. Congratulations.
We have officers. Okay, so this will adjourn our annual meeting. Committee with both. So our meeting will adjourn this, and it's 6:41. Okay, and we are now going to open our special meeting.
Good evening, everyone. We have this meeting for our electing or appointing the vacancy that we had earlier last meeting, we interviewed a few candidates, and we had a special meeting on the interested candidates on citywide representation, and we're now going to ask those to announce their names, but we will we have received each separately. Okay. So if you can just which the individuals who have applied, your names, and then we'll say a word or at the time of the meeting, you supposed to put the name that it's the brand, which I looks to get provides for that the name you say. Who is going to have it? Well, we're going to have it.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Is it really, you want to process?
okay, so
I'm just gonna take the.
so we have several candidates, and what's supposed to happen is each name is supposed to be read. And so that we all hear the names, so every just really the name that you're going to ask when you say, you know, that's it. You would expect 3 times for that all the years. And I'm glad it's everything that's to do fine.
Yes, how many candidates, we have more than 3.
Yes, me too.
When we candidates, okay, I mean. Yes, or you can call a name and all you can vote, then you can see how many candidates get 6 or more votes.
Oh, that makes sense.
And then there's more than 3. Because my peers then it was all say interview that's the name. In each round, then how will you?
So from my understanding, that the question is if the person is elected, then that person comes off.
Right.
If the person is not elected, we have to do it again. But that is,
All these, yeah, 6 or more votes.
right, so in order for this to be whatever it was, this has to be happening, it's 6 votes. So there's some differences, truths, and whether it be said, and the impact works out, it's. Both schools when.
Yes, I need to be. Okay. Okay, our candidates this evening, you will be called first candidate's name.
So everyone has to know what's happening.
So our candidates this evening are Jacqueline Alpern, Judy Alvarez, Christine Kennedy, Carmen Figueroa, Mark Gonzalez, Lupe Hernandez, Denise Johnson Hall, Samel Lawrence, Deborah Cicado, Shannon Terrell, and Stephanie Young.
So some members ready to do another today, but they may be online, so I think that we either need to go. Okay, so then have to go around for each person in the world, and I say each candidate that you want. That's how it works.
Yes.
Does the person have this big meetings?
They're not, and there's nobody on.
I mean, you can list them all and make an offer. You're gonna vote. There will not be any participate, that's the meeting, like, oh, in your next town meeting, like, but they don't have to be present, we can vote.
There's nobody. Unless this 646 person.
The two people who are not in attendance that we know of gave us an excuse. They gave us the reason why.
So we have some meetings there, so the members of the board actually.
And there's one more, as well, like, oh,
Yes.
Okay, so we can move there, or each one would just say the name and mention.
Is that what?
She read the names now, each one else.
Diane Abrams,
The first Mark, Lupe, no, just Mark.
Francine Almash,
Mark Gonzalez.
Sinai Beckers Canty,
Morgan Silence.
Carolyn Castro,
Mark Gonzalez.
Heather Daly,
Mark Gonzalez.
Tamara Reed,
Community candidates.
Yeah. Did you comment?
Yeah. and Maggie Sanchez.
Mark Gonzalez.
Okay, for our next candidate, Diane Abrams,
Yes, they did.
Francine Almash,
Shannon.
Sinai Beckers Canty,
Sharon Surratt.
Carolyn Castro,
Shannon Serrano.
Heather Daly,
Shannon Terrell.
Tamara Reed, Maggie Sanchez.
Shannon Terrell.
For our third candidate, Diane Abrams, Francine Almash,
Lupe Hernandez.
Sinai Beckers Canty, Carolyn Castro,
Lupe Hernandez.
Heather Daly,
Lupe Hernandez.
Tamara Reed, Maggie Sanchez.
Lupe Hernandez.
Okay, for me, we never was that, really, being members. I think two were, it's Diane able to.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Nobody's gonna get mad at you.
So we were thinking of ways to apply. There's a really tough decision for us. We should think teaching for conference, apply and be a part of this new process. If you're the fire pen, you still have so it's just that, but. It has our. We were always to find the that's, and we just.
Benito.
Change the because there were never meetings, at that they would understand. Then I'll close with that.
I put forth the vote.
What's up, the new candidates?
To accept any plan.
Benito has his hand up, so I'm just.
Yes, thank you.
Because Benito, the translator.
We have an individual meeting, it's a thing that we don't have to really accept it, but it's we, no, or we accept it. So you can
Benito, the interpreters.
So what I would see that in session media, the public.
Oh, we didn't have it. Okay.
Benito, what's going on?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we need.
I can't
that-
hear him. Hold on.
Can you hear me?
Let me unmute my thing. Yes,
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Yes.
Yes, just if it's possible, anybody which is in the Spanish line, we need to turn off the speakers because we're having feedback that is not letting us.
Okay.
Please.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
okay, I'll do that. So you have to turn.
If you have your laptop, you've got to turn this. Sorry. The speaker. See how it's on? Because there's feedback. See, good one. That should be better.
Benita, is that better? Yeah. Okay.
No, you should not make a motion because that's the question.
I make a motion to close the special meeting.
I second. You can avoid it on-
Aye.
It is now. And this is moving for the month of September. Then we have a, that's it, very important, I'm sorry. I'm roasting, or very, very important, thank you.
Okay, Diane Abrams,
Yeah.
Frank, we're working with
Yeah.
Francine Alhart,
Here.
Sinai Wisconsin, Carolyn Castro,
Here.
Heather Daly,
Here.
Tamara Reed,
Here.
Maggie Sanchez,
Here. And then.
and now. His name is right here. Lupe Hernandez,
Here.
Mark Gonzalez,
Here.
and Shannon Terrell. Welcome.
So this is.
I would like to make a motion to push the business meeting to the after the calendar meeting.
Okay, we might have a motion to. Can somebody say that? I said.
So we need to do voice. No.
Right, so that, we're changing the, that's not what you said, you said to push it after the calendar.
I just, because we have to change the agenda.
Right,
No,
so
it's
what's
not,
the name?
it's not being, it's not, it's not.
What we need to do is make a motion to push the group meeting, so next month. I'm not ready. So with it. That we did with this meeting, it will never have to be open.
It's either the item from the agenda to the October meeting. So we need to open the business meeting. Because we have to have a business meeting every month.
So.
Right, you can open, we have a meeting, we can open it, but you push the items not to the beginning.
Okay.
So that.
Okay, so let's open the business.
Yeah, so the business meeting, well,
Okay, so I make a motion to move the business meeting items on the agenda to next business meeting on October 5th.
Can we do a voice vote on that?
Yes.
All in favor, move on items on the agenda, the business meeting to October 5th. Anyone opposed? Any abstention? Okay, motion passes, we're moving the items on the business meeting agenda, meeting on October 5th. I make a motion, can somebody make?
I make a motion to close the business meeting.
I second.
We all know, I mean,
We need to do resolution for the office.
No, we can
Alright,
close
so
mine.
all those in favor of closing the.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? The business meeting is closed.
and then I'm going to be held in the 6:57. Well, we can say, like I said, where we'll vote. Attendance. Diane Abrams,
President.
Francine Allen,
President.
Tonight, President Darrell Castro,
President.
Heather Bailey,
Present.
Yuri, Maggie Sanchez,
President.
Lupe Hernandez,
President.
Janet Zero,
President.
Mark Rob. Therefore, basically, when we maybe use the interpreters, here, we can sign it.
I can do it.
So we will never know the institution by the special education nothing.
Good evening, everybody. My name is John Adams of Regions. Thanks for this state tonight. That's the CCSE graduations for the members. I'm looking forward to working with all this year and next year as well as graduations. We're going to start tonight by announcing the unfortunate transition of our director of tax or individual Sue leadership. We're really excited about on this on the next step of this journey into the most really different very happy to stay between us with a very big and long way and long observe motion for our child. It's really the role of senior director of family support and really sort of really what is the structure of how all this the families diverse and so very excited for working in this role and really more excited for continuing to build on really fly folks that have conducted outreach to special education and schools that I not of. Shot has been only behind the box in the last several years, providing tremendous amount of support to families. Including here, the opportunities this role. We hear, I think, some of the struggles you all face each and every month when you come to this meeting, shot. Here's these struggles each and every day. Today, and really has always been Christine and I passionate around ways that we make start with better families. We're really excited that you can do meetings for I just wanted to start by talking through some of the meetings and the questions that we received from CCSE and parents throughout this entire meeting. Really, that's 3 meetings. So I'll try to address these at the top, and of course, have additional questions for the evenings and questions that we can actually do that. First, I heard I desire more information on how you see students working with the audience and this information around your students that have come to us and completely understand the desire for more information on that. While we do not really ask families for that information upon enrollment about why it is how is there in New York City public schools, the kind of information that we track. You do very much working very hard to ensure that families who are in New York City public schools. to do a couple of things on the slide, not any immediate term. First, we made sure to issue guidance also to the guidance our expectations.
The feedback I'm getting is that it's very clear by rows, so I'm wondering if it's the mic on her computer that it's picking up and it makes it easier for them to hear. So. You're welcome to. Use my.
I also get back to that's.
And Zoom.
Yeah.
Oh.
John's going to connect at his desk. Yeah, John's going to join from his desk on Zoom so you all can hear him better.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. Can you see it? Yes. No, we're just gonna. Yeah, we're gonna have a problem with the meeting. Why can't you cannot hear? Speaker to just bring them to one of them. Wait, why?
It's all the way up.
You know, seeing we get to the part, press that.
So that is.
You know, sometimes you can get into the. Like that, sometimes. What happens if you click that? Click this, right here. This one. It's a lot. Oh, that's why it's been confusing right now. This is the. This is the. Yeah. And it's a mess. Look at this. Look at sound bar. This is the line. I'm gonna keep my eyes open and my right. This is very.
It's a Zoom setting that has the mic.
That's it. It may be in Zoom. Camille said that she can hear by rows, whereas people stand in rows, so those have to. Then you want to say, I'm doing sign there. No, you need to increase. Oh, do you have? Because I mentioned the way to tell it's picked up is if you can read the caption. If you can't read the caption, then it's.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Oh.
Sorry for the delay, and thank you for your patience. I hope this works out better. Um, as I was saying earlier, I just wanted to very quickly. My name is John Hammer, Deputy Chief of Special Education, New York City Public Schools. Congratulations to our newly voted in members. Really looking forward to working with you and the rest of the council over the next couple of years. As I was announcing earlier, we recently promoted Shao Powell Scott to our Senior Director of Family Support. Sha has been really the woman behind the special education at schools.nyc at schools.nyc.gov inbox for the last several years, and we are just super excited that she's taking on this promotional opportunity, and that she'll be leading our parent engagement and our work with families moving forward. And so, big congratulations to Sha, and looking forward to introducing her more to the CCSE as we gear up for the upcoming school year. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the questions that came in from council in advance of tonight's meeting. I tried to bucket these in three key areas that it seems like folks wanted to discuss. First was on support for newly arriving families. There was some questions that were sent our way around number of students newly arriving and how we are tracking that information. I want to just be clear that New York City Public Schools does not seek to secure that information around how or why it is that new students are coming into our New York City public school system. What we do very much focus on is ensuring that our schools are set up prepared to support those students and families. And so a couple of action items that we have been taking as an office in order to ensure that students that have specialized needs are immediately cared for upon enrollment is we are really working very hard to ensure that all schools are clear on the process for development of comparable service plans. Comparable service plan is a plan that can be developed in the immediate term while a school is working on evaluating a child and developing an IEP. And the goal here is to immediately arrange for services that might be required, whether those be related services or a small class. And so we put some guidance out on that in P Digest in advance of the start of school, and then trained superintendents teams at just last week. We're also in the stages of finalizing a one-pager for families to really ensure that they understand that no matter where they're coming from, that New York City Public Schools, or whatever needs that their child has, that New York City Public Schools is here to support their children. We want to, and we're looking for the partnership from the council here. We really want to make sure that everybody is aware that there's nothing we should share any information that we have around concerns about our child's learning or any suspected disabilities upon enrollment, so that we can immediately develop these plans to get supports in place ASAP. And so we tried to be crystal clear with schools around that and family welcome centers around that, and just want to continue to press on that with parents as well. Nothing should delay the development of a comparable service plan and services being provided to students, and we want to make sure that that information's out there. The next piece that I saw a through line around was, what are we doing around accountability structures for schools and superintendents? Obviously we appreciate that so much from council and families. This is obviously something that's very much at the top of mind for Christina and I, and ensuring that everybody's accountable for the full provision of special education services and programs. I can share that this is something that our chancellor is laser focused on about as well. He invited Christina to present to all superintendents at their first meeting of the school year, where she was early able to set clear expectations for all superintendents, with senior leadership there, that this is the year that we get to 95% of students fully receiving, at minimum, their recommended programs. We know that last school year we finished a little above 90% of students fully receiving their recommended SETS ICT special class programs, and know that we have to get to 95% this year at least, and have to do that very quickly. And so we were very clear around the timelines for that, and are working to ensure that every student is fully programmed as quickly as possible. There were some questions in there around an approach to an audit. So obviously I want to hear more from the council around what they're thinking about that, or from families around what they're thinking about that. But, it's clear to me that you're pushing for more transparency, which is something that we support very much as well. One of the things that we've worked hard to get in place, and I just want to lift this up again, and I know that we've had some challenges in getting NICS access to some of our non-public school families, but working very hard to make sure that gets tightened up very quickly. NICSA provides information to parents on what's being provided. So if families are to go into their NICSA account and check on that IEP tab, you should be able to access the most recently recommended IEP programs and services on your child's IEP. And there should be information around the teacher that is scheduled to provide your child with special education teacher support, whether that's through SETS or ICT or special class, and also the names of your child's related service providers, and the date that child most recently received their mandated speech, OT, PT counseling services, whatever it is that they have been recommended for on their IEP. And this is something that we've put into place to increase transparency for families, so that they know and have access to the information on who is providing those services, and whether or not those services are being provided. And that's right. And thank you to Heather, that this is a structure that's in place for our New York City public school students. And thank you, Heather, for that clarification around for our non-public school student parents should still be able to access this information for transportation purposes. We want to hear more from the council, whether that's tonight or whether that's in a future meeting, around what other systems and structures need to be strengthened to ensure that there is additional transparency. I think folks are aware that we are building a new special ed data management system, which is going to include a strengthened parent portal. And so as we work to build that out, any other information that is available, that should be available to parents who want to hear about it, make sure that it's accounted for in the development of our new system. Next, there were some questions in there around what's the direction for special education, and what's next. So I'm going to take this in two parts. I want to start by talking a little bit about most recent updates on the Special Education Advisory Council. Now, folks may remember that I believe last January, Chancellor Banks announced the establishment of a Special Education Advisory Council to put forward recommendations for the future of special education in New York City public schools. That advisory council met from beginning in January and up through June, and really provided a good number of very strong recommendations for us to consider. Those recommendations, or at least a high level of the big rocks, have been memorialized and sent to all of the advisors for review and feedback. And so we've starting to hear a lot of affirming information from many of our advisors, as we look to get us to a place where we will have final recommendations to present to the chancellor for the work ahead. And so we are expecting that that's going to happen very soon, and are seeking to schedule a chancellor's breakfast where all the advisors can be celebrated. And most importantly, though, give the advisors the time and the space to present these recommendations to Chancellor Banks. I think immediately following that breakfast, I think that you will hear a little bit more from us on what actions we intend to take in response to the recommendations from the advisory council. And we expect to be vocal about that. We know that we have work to do. We think that this council has put us on the right path with strong recommendations of what needs to improve, and we have ideas around how to make that happen. Speaking to Mark a little bit before the meeting started tonight, and I know that there was some concern on his part around really wanting to, desire to hear more from the chancellor today and in the state of the school speech around special education. And while I understand, Mark's frustration, I just want to be very clear that we're not too far away from really having our moment here. And Chancellor has been extremely receptive. We've been briefing him, along the way. And we're very excited about getting this breakfast on the calendar and giving him an opportunity to meet with the advisors, hear directly from them, and then getting to work with our partners, and expect to continue to engage with the advisory council as we focus on implementation this school year. So I also wanted to talk a little bit about some of our goals and priorities, but I want to pause here and I want to just give the council, seeing as like these updates were in response to some of the questions that were sent our way, just want to pause here and see if there's any additional clarification or any additional questions or things needed. So I'll stop here.
I think it's probably around there is that question. I wanted to say again, unfortunately, we just have so many technical difficulties and it's really extremely with everything. It's really an important conversation, and I know those of us in the room here, it's a little bit hard to follow, but I think we do have some questions. And I have a question. I have a question. Samira, so Diane, do you want to go first? I have a question where the accountability was more and more the teachers and educators that were working with the children. Because one of the issues that I have heard here is when we get phone calls about my son's behavior and they're just responding in a more human way. And about the combinations that, they would think about the as IEP and all the ones that are assisted and these are the people where we use. What do we do in concern that people working without children and are able to work with them and understand that what are the people that's needed and inside are to respond to humans and humans as students and try to work without children.
All right. Well, now I can appreciate how difficult it was for folks to hear me in the conference space. I'm really sorry that I wasn't able to capture that. Would it be helpful for me to run back quickly and take some of the...
Everybody has to be not. So everybody will be able to communicate with device, but not just make a microphone, you turn the volume on your device as well, right? So it's not just meeting your Zoom, you have to turn like your computer or phone volume off. Otherwise, we get with that, I need to comparison to even with the first time thing on your phone, your device and difference ways. So did you hear that question down? John, would you weigh the last?
Carolyn, I know it's you, and unfortunately, I can't make it out. Maybe if you want to just drop a question in the chat, and then I can respond to it. Does that work?
Just I didn't hear him through here though. It's okay. But you can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Much clearer.
Oh, so should I repeat everything I just said?
I'm so sorry, but I think it would be best.
Okay, so my thing was the accountability more on the side of the educators that are actually working with our children, to hold them accountable, to know that our children have IEPs and know what their accommodations are. Because like I said, every year I'm educating my son's teachers when I get phone calls talking about his behavior, and the gym teacher, I'm gonna have to have him sit out and all of this. And I'm just like, ma'am, do you even understand the child that you're working with? Do you know that he has an IEP? Do you know what his accommodations are? Do you know that he takes medication? Nothing. She knew absolutely nothing. And this is every year that I go through this. So my thing is, how are we holding these educators accountable to know that our children have IEPs, number one, and know how to work with them when at the start of the school year? Some of them even come to the IEP meetings
Again, with no knowledge of the child having an IEP or what it is.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely unacceptable. I mean, we do have policy and procedure in place about this. Chapter 408 is really intended to ensure that every adult that is working with a student accesses that IEP in advance of the start of school. And that's guidance that goes out annually to schools, and it is something that we do check on. But obviously, I'm hearing this from you and from Camille in the chat. And so we can take that back and really double down on some spot checking here to make sure that all schools are implementing this with fidelity.
So then you guys for the one second. We just do this like a we do that, we do use the second, we need some, can you tell John to address? Just move that.
Hold on, we're gonna try something.
John, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, I can't. Hold on one second. Let me just try one other thing. Yeah. I think it's fine. Can you still hear? Can the people online, is that creating an echo?
I think as long as you continue to speak loudly, I think we'll be okay.
Okay. So I really appreciate Diana's question. And I think that I noticed, I saw Camille put a mention in the chat. I just want to amplify that. I think what she's talking about happens more often than we think. And I think the other part of it is, I think in my experience, I see two things happen across schools. One is that there is this idea that it's a lot of work for teachers to read all of the IEPs of all of the students before the school year starts. And so there's this idea that they can sort of enter the school year, see what's happening, and sort of take it as it comes. And I think a lot of us experience that. I've seen that across many schools. I think another thing that happens is a lot of times people view IEPs as these very long and burdensome documents. And so it's not uncommon for teachers to just skip ahead, read the supports and services, and not really read the rest of the IEP. I think this is a very real problem, and I think it goes to a lot of the accountability questions that people are asking about. I think and I don't mean to speak to you, Diana, while I have the mic, I know. But I think that that's a really important piece of this accountability question. And I think it goes to well, I appreciate the statistics of trying to achieve 95% like compliance and 95% services. There's just something about understanding the integrity of those services. And I think when we were putting our questions together, one of the things that we were thinking of was this problem that happens where we say, we need to make sure everybody, for example, is getting their services, but a lot of times those services are delivered in a way where it's checking a box, but it's not meaningful, right? And so I'm sure that I would imagine that under the way Diana's child is receiving services, it probably looks on paper like they're receiving services. That's not the same thing as all of the teachers in the school understanding that student's needs. I can speak also, a little bit from personal experience, that there's also this kind of idea that, and we've talked a lot about the culture shift that needs to happen. And I don't think it's always necessarily because of bad intentions, but it's this idea that we can help them and they don't need these things, right? Like that, it's that whole crutch mentality. And I think that both of those things feed into this idea that it's a lot of extra work, and also that if we teach them correctly or we teach them in a way, we won't have to do these things. And I think then what happens is the student becomes a behavior problem, right? It falls apart, and then the parents start getting called, and then that's where the conversation lives, right? It's no longer about supports and services and accommodations, but it's now about a child's behavior. And I think that's a very, very common special education story. So yeah, I will leave that so that other people can talk and
Well,
maybe to respond.
Francine, I do want to respond to that, and I think it's refreshing to hear you say that, and I think it's extremely important point. You know, when we transition a bit, and I do want to leave some time here to talk to you a little bit about what we're thinking in terms of goal setting for our office in the upcoming school year. All of our goals this year are grounded in quality. We have been pounding the pavement on compliance for years and years and years, and I think it has been so important. But I say 95. I mean, listen, the expectation is that there's superintendents that are getting to 100% this year, and we're really have gotten ourselves our point. We feel very fortunate that superintendents understand that what needs to be done on the compliance front, that we can really dig into the quality of special education programs and services this school year. And so we definitely want to bounce some ideas off of the council tonight, and some things that we're thinking in terms of how we can improve how services are being provided in New York City public schools.
Okay, yeah, I think we all look forward to having that conversation really in earnest. Tamira, you had a question. I'm gonna hopefully pass it over to Tamira. Can you hear it, John? No.
Hi. I appreciate your share. I do have, I'm worried. I feel, and this is obviously definitely not a personal attack, so I just want to preface that before I share. But the 95% compliance rate, I don't understand where that figure is coming from. I think if you have schools that say they're in compliance, it's very different from actually being in compliance. When you have a child who comes home and tells you that they haven't had counseling for a month and a half because they just stopped picking her up from the classroom, and nobody tells you this, that's not compliance. When you don't have a case manager because your case manager leaves, in March and you're not reassigned, that's not compliance. When you get one progress report when grades are posted quarterly, and you get one progress report that's a cut and paste from the grade before, that's not compliance. And so I hear you, but what's happening in the schools is not matching the figures that we're getting tonight here. I mean, we hear this from dozens, hundreds of families in our own schools, in our own circles all the time. Having to chase down a progress report for your child on the last day of school when you've only received one that wasn't complete. You have no way of knowing if they're really progressing or not, how they're actually being assessed. And then to get a verbal progress report, your kid made progress. It's unacceptable. And so when you say that you're going to work in the schools and on the ground, I wonder what that looks like. I wonder how that's going to look across all the districts. Can they follow IDA and say, hey, these are the policies, this is the law, this is what we need to do, and to actually train staff to really progress monitor and to understand the value in that and why it's important and when it happens and how to write a progress report. So these are issues, everyday issues that, yeah, you're right, we're facing. I just want to know what the follow-up actually entails and looks like in terms of staff development and accountability on your office, on the part of your office. Thank you very much.
Well, Tamara, I'm very sorry to hear about some of the challenges that you're facing, and I don't mean to project that everything's perfect in any way, shape, or form. That's not, that's not the message here. The message, continues to be that we have a lot of work to do. I think that we've made a lot of progress in making sure that kids are getting set up in the classes that they require. But to your point, there's a lot more that our kids deserve, and a lot more that we're expected to provide for kids and families. And this is a perfect example of one of those items. We've been training on the importance of progress monitoring beginning at the start of the pandemic pretty regularly, and knowing that it is extremely important that families are kept up to speed on any impact of remote learning that student is experiencing, and we have continued to share with schools the need for progress monitoring regularly. And coming out of the pandemic, folks, I think you'll likely remember that at each IEP meeting last school year, there was an expectation, and I hope that this happened for all of our families here tonight, that there was a conversation around compensatory services that might be required due to regression experienced during the pandemic. Our message here is that should largely be driven by review of progress monitoring data. And so it has been something that we have been really pushing hard to ensure that is happening regularly. And it's something that we're committed to continuing this school year. We expect that for each of these meetings again this year, there's going to be another assessment for compensatory services. And so, I understand the need to make sure that we're continuing to train and holding folks accountable, and getting reports out to the field on how often progress monitoring is happening in schools.
Thank you, John. I think Heather, sorry, Carolyn, and then Heather has a question. Can you hear me?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Okay, hi, John again. I'm sorry, I think there's an issue. Can you
There's a
hear me,
little bit of
John?
an echo, but we can hear you okay. Carolyn, you're good. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you
Yes.
okay. We can
Okay.
hear you.
All right, so first I want to say thank you so much to John, because John, you're always showing up, you deal with the hard questions, and you do the best that you can with what you're given. I also really, really, really want to welcome Shah. Shah, just personally speaking, has been so gracious and so helping to myself, my family, parents that I advocate on behalf of. She's always pushing and making sure that the families are getting the services that they need. So Shah, welcome. We adore you. My questions are less local level, a little larger, but they all interrelate. So the first question is about the incoming asylum students. And the concern that I have with that is that it is putting more pressure on an already fractured system. It is anecdotal, but I have heard that there are children coming into classrooms, in ICT classrooms, who do not speak the language. There is no teacher who can provide the language services. So unofficially, what people are doing to get by is they're having students co-pair with other students who speak the language, or a para or someone else is stepping in to provide the language services. Now, looking at that from a larger scale, the concern becomes, how are we identifying and properly screening these students coming in? How are we dealing with the student body that we already have who may be multilingual learning? How are we identifying them? How are we providing them services? How are we properly reaching out to their families? And how are we continuing to deal with our students with disabilities who speak English, who face the same challenges. So the way I see it, it is a three-tier system that sort of all overlaps each other, but the needs are somewhat different. So I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that this year will be an analysis year where I'm hoping the special education report will capture these three subsets of groups collectively, but also individually, to see how one group impacts the other group, because there's going to be, I feel, an impact. So my ask is that for the upcoming annual report, you separate asylum students, and I'm being very delicate saying this because I don't want to segregate groups, but we do need to understand how the groups, one group will impact the other. In addition to that, I forget what meeting it was, but Danica Rux publicly stated that for every 15 students that comes in that is an asylum student will trigger the hiring of one teacher in that grade. I don't know how that could be realized if we have a national teacher shortage. So I'm just putting that out there for thought and discussion. Maybe not tonight, but I am putting that out there.
Well, I absolutely hear you on this, Carolyn, and I think that that's why we've been trying so hard to make sure that everybody's clear around how to develop these comparable service plans early, and that they're aware of the availability of bilingual special education classes within their districts, and are working with our BSE team in order to secure placement in programs with that are able to provide support for students, newly arriving students with disabilities. We did open 600 new BSE seats this year. We do have seats in Spanish and Mandarin speaking classrooms available in many districts. And so it's a matter of catching these kids early, to your point, Carolyn, and making sure that we are shepherding them to these programs that are available and ready to meet their needs. On the reporting front, it's something that we'll have to look into, obviously, and I think I can't speak for on specifically to Deputy Chancellor Rux's comment. I imagine that she's likely talking from a budget perspective, that would trigger enough funding for a new teacher to be brought on. But you're absolutely right. We need to ensure that we have enough teachers to bring into our school system, and that we're bringing in quality teachers to meet these kids' needs.
Thank you. I had a secondary question, I'll be quick, and it had to do with a response to the advisory council. I understand that ended in June. I was wondering if the advisory council will be picking up in this year. And if so, will it be the same members for that council? And also, will CCSE be provided at some point with the findings of that so that we can review it and provide comments?
Absolutely. You'll be to the first question, I think that's a little bit TBD. We do envision continuing to work with the advisory council this year on implementation. We envision that there will be something like quarterly gatherings. We haven't done too much thinking around extending this up to additional advisors, but it's something that we can consider, and I'll bring back. As far as briefing the council, absolutely. The report itself, the key findings and the report itself are both going to be publicly posted and publicly available. And I would be really excited to come to a CCSE meeting and speak publicly on behalf of the recommendations that came through the council. So would love to work with you guys on that.
Thank you.
And guys, just coming back to the progress reports pieces, because I'm seeing some of the comments in the chat. This is another area, honestly, where CSIS doesn't do a great job of setting us up for success. And I want to just more specifically to some of the comments here in terms of oversight and tracking, and then in quality. We are very much hoping that our new system is going to better support us in all of those things.
Thank you for calling that out, John. Heather has a question next.
Do your question. Okay. Can you guys hear me? Because I don't know what mic is picking up voices, but something. Okay. So I have a couple of questions. One, when we talk about compensatory services, I've heard from.
Heather, I lost you.
I'm unmuted. Okay. Can you hear? Can you hear me now? Okay. It's picking up. All right. So my question is about compensatory services, and I think it's great to have a plan to serve kids with compensatory services. But that being said, I have great concerns with the staffing required to do that. I've already heard from families this week, I think 2, maybe 3, where their school doesn't even have an OT for their kid. And it's the 3rd week of school. They haven't been assigned related service providers. And so if they already don't have staff to serve the students just with their normal services and their IP, how are they going to staff compensatory services? And especially without doing like an RSA or a P4, which we all know is like almost impossible to fill as a parent. It's like a full-time job to try and find a staff that can fulfill a P4. So that's my first question. And then I have another one.
Well, Heather, first and foremost, we got to get providers set up in those schools. So I will stop by after the meeting and make sure that I get some information for you around where this is happening. Secondly, we want to continue to, not ideal. We want these services to be provided at the school to the greatest extent possible. We do work with schools to bring in contracted providers for after school services in the event that they can't identify somebody to stay after school at the building. We also, I think folks are relatively aware that we do operate Saturday Academy Seed, and just Saturday related services as an opportunity for kids to come in and get some missed sessions. And it's not ideal and not a perfect situation for families, but we have found that for some families that works really well. It gives them an opportunity to connect with their providers, with the providers that are servicing students, and transfer those skills into the home. And so we do expect to have those sites up and running again this school year is another avenue for us to be able to get those needed supports to kids.
I just want to do a time check.
We're at 7:45.
No, I know. I know what time it is. I mean, for the length of the meeting, for this piece of it, we have a little less than 10 minutes that we had allotted for this. I'm not sure what your time frame is. Heather, I know you said you had another question. Maggie has a question, and I see there's a member of the audience that also has a question. And I know, Don, you actually stopped your presentation before you were finished in order to take questions. And so just want to get a read from you, John, about how much time you have, and then from the council about how long we want to extend this presentation. And then I would also ask that maybe if we try to keep our questions to about 2 minutes so that we can make sure we don't run out of time, because we will be asked to leave here at a certain time. So John, for you, what is your time?
I think I could probably stick around till around 8:15 if that works.
Okay, so we have about 30 minutes. Is the council okay with extending the presentation until 8:15?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so Heather, if you could ask your second question and maybe try to keep it brief, and then Maggie, and then if there are no other council members that have questions, any other council members on deck? That's okay. I mean, we have 30 minutes. And then we'll take, if there are members from the public, we'll quickly take those questions, and if we could just ask everybody to keep it to about 2 minutes. Okay, Heather, go ahead.
Okay, my second question is actually in regards to the UFT contract. There was a line in the UFT contract stating that teachers can use their 40 minutes of, I guess, their like family engagement time to conduct IEPs. And that the way it was written is kind of vague, and it's very concerning to me that it makes it so easy to pigeonhole IEP meetings into 40 minutes once a week for parents. And we all know that you're not going to get effective IEPs or appropriate IEPs if that is how things are going to be done. And so I just want to raise that as a concern in this contract. And I don't know if there's a solution or not, or if it can be clarified, but that just terrifies me that it could so easily be like, well, that's the IEP time is our 40 minutes when we engage parents.
I hear the concern. That's absolutely not the expectation. I think really what we want to do there is allow teachers to use the time and space for family engagement, to have meaningful IEP meetings where they're not, bouncing around from, between classes or need to get back to their class, which has been a challenge in the past. Meeting finishes when a meeting finishes, right? And if we're not all the way there at the end of any particular time frame, the expectation has been and always will be that we pick that conversation up when folks are available to continue that conversation. And no one should be using any excuse to close a meeting at a particular time if the conversation hasn't been concluded.
We can all say that in theory, right? That teachers won't do this, this won't happen. That's not the expectation. But when it's written that specifically in a contract, that's what will happen. There will always be somebody that says, well, the only time we get to do IEP meetings is in the 40 minutes. That's what it says in our contract. And so that's why I'm worried.
Heather, I hear the concern. I will go back and I will check that contract again. My take of the contractual language is that is one time that can be used for IEP meetings. I don't think that it's ever been New York City Public Schools' intent to say that IEP meetings can only happen during that time period or that time frame. But I think that we did want to ensure that teachers had the flexibility to schedule IEP meetings during their parent engagement time, because that is parent engagement, right? That is working with families, and so wanted to make explicit that is an option for teachers and schools. But the intention there is, as far as I'm aware, and I will check in with our labor team tomorrow, is that this is not intended to say that IEP meetings can't happen during the school day. And if a parent is not available on Tuesday between the hours of 3 and 3:40, schools are going to continue to be expected to find time to meet with parents. It's not changing. That expectation is not shifting.
Okay, thank you. Maggie, did you want to ask your question? Just mute it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, John, for answering our questions. A couple of things, really quickly. I wanted to go over the, when can we expect the public report from the advisory council? When will that be made public? Then also regarding Nixa and the new app for busing. I would like to just follow up on that new app that came out that it's supposed to be, parents should be using, or it's supposed to be rolled out. Can we get a clarity on when it's official, that it will be like officially rolled out, or when it's supposed to be working as it should? Because we're hearing that the app is not working for them right now. Regarding Nixa and non-public schools, I have been in contact actually with you directly with my son's previous program, and he still doesn't have a Nixa account linked to his profile linked to my Nixa account. This is not only my experience, this is the experience of many families in non-public schools. And I was wondering, what is it going to take for this to be resolved? What is it that needs to be done in order for, because it seems like it's just a very, I don't know, it shouldn't take me years to get a Nixa account.
No, you're
I-
you're absolutely right. And
I think that, sorry, John.
no,
I
no,
think that it should be just something that should be maybe a department or a liaison directly from the DOE that can work directly with the non-publics, with 4410 preschool programs and with 853 programs, because it seems like there's a gap in communication there. And it's I have personal experience that many of the things that the DOE rolls out, many of the programs, many of the services, many of the, including recovery services, we A53s and 4410 students and families are constantly excluded from those. So that's a concern. Regarding compensatory services, again, families of A53 students are forced to work. Well, during the pandemic, when recovery services were rolled out, we were forced to go through the regular compensatory services, meaning going to the impartial hearing process. That is very unfair for families that, like me, like my family, that went through the whole process and lost services, lost instruction during the pandemic, and have not been able, because I cannot hire an attorney because of lack of financial that I haven't been able to get the services for my son that he needs and that he lost. And I feel that it's very unfair for families like mine to not have an equitable opportunity to receive those recovery services that we're supposed to be giving, only because of the type of program that my son attends. My son is a child with an IEP. He should be receiving the exact same services and programs and everything else that public school students receive. Thank you so much.
no, I hear you on that point. And obviously our students in 853 programs, 4410 programs, absolutely, deserve, equitable access to programs and services than any other student in New York City public schools. The Nixa one has not been an easy one for us. Largely, this is technical in nature, the challenges, as I understand it, and we worked very hard. Our team worked very hard to get individual codes for families at the start of school this year and to get those codes sent out. And I know that we ran into some technical challenges and have been trying to work to get those all ironed out. I will get the latest on where we are with that and send the council over a written update. I'll be in touch with both you and Heather about that tomorrow.
Thank you, John. I want to take a minute and hand it over to the public. Does all the council members feel like they've asked their questions for now? Hold on, I think we have one coming from Lupe, and then there's a question in the chat that I want to read, and I know Camille, you had your hand raised earlier, so I'm not sure if you still want to speak. Feel free to raise your hand again. So Lupe, go ahead.
Thanks. I did put one of the questions I had just kind of in the chat that can be followed up later. But this question, as of right now, is more pertinent to the hearing that took place today in City Council regarding technology and education, and kind of following up even on Councilmember Maggie's question in regards to VIA, where we are with that and how that's being utilized, as well as the car ride share services and how student privacy is going to be protected in all of these, including this new portal that you're talking about, as we've had 3 breaches of student privacy, data privacy, specifically our students with disabilities, and the amount of information that is on our IEPs and some even Medicaid, students have all of that information. And I'm just wondering what the DOE's or New York City Public Schools is doing proactively, preemptively. I did not hear from the DOE enough in regards to those risks and what that's going to look like going forward as we start to include more and more vendors with access of our students' data.
Can you just quickly say what VIA is for?
VIA was the GPS or tracking / also routing is what I've been told, that it was supposed to be routing our school buses, as well as providing parents a real-time GPS tracker of where that bus was, whether that was coming to your home to pick up. So you were not waiting outside in extreme weather because your pickup time is that time, and maybe the bus is running late, maybe the bus is running early, and as well as drop off, just knowing, having security of where your child is. And it's just disappointing because this was supposed to be out by 2019. I think many of us on this council have mentioned the fact that this contract was paid for, yet those services have never been rendered. And then we went ahead and renewed that contract. And yet here we are in 2023, and I have yet to hear of a parent being able to actually utilize it. We all got the app, we downloaded the app, but no one I know is actually physically seeing a bus. And the side note to that is that we had parent advocates that actually created a different system for free for the DOE with Nice Bus. And for some reason that was shut down, even though it was working. So I just would like updates on that and clarity and where we are with VIA.
So it sounds like there's sort of two parts to that question. The first part is the perpetual busing question with all of the elements that Lupe said. And then I think the second question, which does connect to something Carolyn was going to ask, is about, regardless of whether it's busing or these other, what was the AI, like these other systems that we're putting in place that include bringing in outside vendors, given that we've already had multiple data breaches, what will we do to ensure the protection of our information and all the students' information going forward? So that's what I heard as the two parts to that question, and also encapsulates Carolyn's question.
So yeah, I'll do the best I can here. These you know, I know that student privacy and data privacy is at the forefront of our minds here at New York City Public Schools, especially in as it pertains to the AI work. You know, my understanding is that last week there was a presentation to the CCHS around AI, and also there was some talk from presentation from the DOE team on steps to ensure that we are keeping all this information secure and private. And I will, if folks are on the council are interested, I'm happy to reach out and have that team come back and present here. Suzanne Sanchez participated in this meeting from our office's perspective, and so we can bring that group back together for CCSE if that's something that you all are interested in hearing more about. And just on VIA, unfortunately, I don't have the latest on the OPT app, but I will try to get some more information from Glenn for you all as well.
So in case you didn't hear it, there was a collective yes in the room for the presentation.
Of course.
And as
Yeah,
always, we look forward to updates on OPT.
Of course.
I see that Jen Choi has her hand raised. If we could take a minute for your question. And then again, Camille, I know that you had your hand raised earlier. Feel free to raise it again. Oh, yeah, thanks.
Should I speak now? Is it okay? Can anybody hear me?
We can hear you, Jen.
Oh, great. Thank you. Okay. So I heard there's a new dashboard for requesting nurse and paraprofessional services for after school programs. This is like PTA sponsored programs, school sponsored after school programs, DYCD Compass and DYCD Sonic after school programs. Like there's some sort of new dashboard. And I think the principal is supposed to request it on the dashboard. But my question, I have two quick ones. My question is, how do principals know to request those things when our children in our community have historically just avoided these after school programs because they haven't been accessible to them? So they don't know that this new dashboard exists and that this new service is available. So that's question number one. And question number two, I don't know if DYCD Beacon is one of those services, but Beacon seem to be very, there seems to be all over this place. It's a very popular after school program from DYCD, but they weren't named. DYCD Compass and DYCD Sonic was named, but not DYCD Beacon. So I was just wondering if DYCD Beacon is eligible for that paraprofessional service or nurse service, and like how do parents and principals know, that they can do these things? Well, maybe principals know, but parents don't know.
Point taken on making sure the parents are aware, Jen. I think we've made a lot of progress through summarizing and working to secure, supports for after school services. And I know that our team has been working, closely to tighten this up for the school year as well. As far as some of the specifics around which programs are included or not, I'm not fully up to speed on that, but I will get some information for you very soon, Jen. And we will, Sean and I will work together to make sure that this information is accessible to families.
Thank you.
Are there any other members of the comment that have any, would like to ask a question? Oh, okay, we have one more council member. Mark Gonzalez has a question.
Hey, John. Question, the mayor has instituted the $700 million immediate cut on the DOE with plans to total that of more than $2 billion in this school year. What programs are at risk for students with disabilities at this time that we're aware of, or what's being considered?
Mark, that's a great question. It is not an easy financial time. I will be very clear about that. Right now, we're really pushing and advocating to keep as much funding and programs for students with IEPs as we possibly can. The conversations are very much unfolding right now, and over the next several days. Deputy Chancellor Quintana has been, and obviously Chief Odie are pushing very hard to minimize or blunt any impact for programs for students with IEPs. And I think we should have more information around any impact in the coming weeks. But right now, just I don't, it's too early to say.
So we have about 10 minutes left before you have to go. I know that you had other things you wanted to present to us, so if everybody agrees, I'd like to hand it back to you to figure out how you'd like to, what you'd like to share with us in the remaining time. And I also would like to just put a placeholder. I really can't emphasize how much of a disaster the technology in this meeting is tonight, and what a shame it is, because this is a really important conversation that I think many of us feel currently kind of half having. So I'm hoping that we can put you on reserve so we can come back and have this conversation fully and with the technology in place, so that we can actually engage people. I noticed we lost a lot of the members of the public. We're all sort of having trouble here. So I appreciate you trucking through, but I hope that we can actually do this again in a more meaningful way.
Francine, I'm not, I'm not shy. I'm a big fan of the CCSE, and I am more than happy to come as often as you'll have me. I'm just happy to work through this together with you guys tonight and make sure that families at home are able to access this information as well. So I'll just, if there, is there any way that I can share screen very quickly? I don't want to take too much more of your time, but I do want
Yeah,
to,
I think Rose is gonna set that up.
thank you.
She's coming. Oh, Heather, you're a co-host, you could do it too. Yeah, you're good. Is it?
You should be able to share now, John.
No, yep. Okay, got it.
Can folks see my screen now? All right, so I'm going to try to move through some of this quickly. I wanted to just, in the spirit of partnership, I wanted to kind of run through what we've gotten from the chancellor and from our deputy chancellor in terms of chancellor's priorities, deputy chancellor's instructional priorities, and then some of what our office is thinking is of really grounding our work in the upcoming school year. If we have time to dig in and get some feedback tonight, that's great. If not, you know, we can set up some side time to talk it through a little bit more. But I wanted to just start today with the Chancellor's mission for New York City Public Schools, and it's that we will ensure that each student graduates on a pathway to a rewarding career and a long-term economic security, equipped to be a positive force for change. And so we are grounding our work in this mission. And as folks may have heard this morning, Chancellor is looking to do this through two key areas. First is around Bright Starts. Bright Starts meaning things like our New York City Reads and our literacy work, and wrapping our arms around dyslexia screening and supporting students with dyslexia and other print-based disabilities. It's wrapping our arms around things like our Hidden Voices curriculum and our curricular resources that are available to schools. And it's also around safety and wellness, things like Project Pivot, mindfulness, ensuring that kids have the supports that they need, specialized programs, bilingual programming, Project Open Arms, all kind of relating to things around Bright Starts, right? Second is around Bold Futures. And that's really around ensuring that kids are set up for success as they are preparing to transition out. I saw a comment here in the chat earlier around that last progress monitoring before a child transition out needing to be a lot stronger. And we agree that we got to really focus on transition planning. And I think that that's something that New York City Public Schools is focusing on very much under this leadership. So it's opening up college and career pathways from the chancellor's perspective, things like Future Ready New York City, our CUNY partnerships. It's the work around digital learning. It's our work around our arts and our civics works and our year-long enrichment, things like Summer Rising. And so these are the areas that the chancellor really is focusing in on around Bright Starts and Bold Futures. Next, I wanted to just very quickly share with you all our citywide instructional priority. This comes down from Deputy Chancellor Quintana, and it's really centered around every child must have a high quality academic experience that leads to deeper learning. And what we're seeking to do here is to make this change through three key levers, right? Lever one being schools will facilitate mastery of core academic skills and content expertise. That means kids understand the basics, right? Kids have the foundational skills that they need in order to develop literacy and math, their literacy and math skills, right? It's making sure that we're getting to these foundational skills. Lever two, schools will facilitate pedagogy that prioritizes critical thinking and problem solving skills. That's making sure that they're able to build their comprehension skills, that we're making them the critical thinkers that they are required to be out in the real world. And finally, lever three is that schools will facilitate a sense of belonging and inclusivity for all learners, right? And this is one that I don't think I need to speak any more about to this group. I think that folks understand the importance of that. And so we are, I think, setting our goals up very much and talking a lot about how our work aligns to the chancellor's mission and his priorities, and also our instructional levers, right? And so, as I had mentioned earlier, I just wanted to bounce some ideas off of the council tonight and things that we're thinking about. Our team has been talking a lot about Bright Starts and Lever One and how these two things connect, right? Because you need to have these foundational skills in order to get really that bright start. And so for us, we see this work as strengthening core instruction through professional learning and training for special education teachers and related service providers, as well as promoting access to instruction through our high quality programmatic models. So to speak a little bit more specifically about two pieces that we are focusing on, providing training in universal design for learning to equip schools with the tools that they need to support all learners. And as part of this goal, we would like to successfully launch an inclusive technology pilot. We've been talking to the CCSE about that, at the Harbor School, which will serve as a model for universally designed 21st century school. And so I want to make this one of our real keys, priorities for the upcoming school year. Next, we've seen our applications to AIMS right now. AIMS is a program that we've established pre-pandemic for students with intensive autism. Their families are really seeking out this program. And unfortunately, for some reason or another, iRead, which is a program that we established for students with dyslexia and other print-based disabilities, hasn't caught on in the same way. In terms of family awareness, family outreach, desire to participate in the program. And so we are really seeking to focus on iRead this year and to make it a model dyslexia program for our country. And so I think that is one area that we are really looking to wrap our arms around this year and focusing on building that out. But next, around Bold Futures. We see this all about the transition planning process. Two pieces that we want to focus on and want to hear from you all about. One, we want to create family and student-facing digital resources that will empower students to express their own identity and allow them to better co-create IEP goals that are meaningful to them. We're having conversations around our team about how powerful it would be for students to have access to a QR code coming into an IEP meeting that allows us to access their goals, priorities for their transition, and more meaningfully participate in this process moving forward. So that's some work that we want to focus on this year and want to see if that resonates with the council. And next, when we talk about independence, a big piece of this for us is around the ability to navigate this city on your own. And we did a lot of talking about travel training in the advisory council, and we see great opportunity to strengthen this work. And so one of the things that we want to focus on this school year is bringing everybody together around this, whether that's MOPD, our student pathways teams, the Fund for Public Schools, potentially NYPD as well, to create really strong partnerships and build the foundation to make travel training accessible to all New York City public school students. And so that's something that we want to focus on very much. And then just tied to that third lever, around inclusivity for all learners, I'm really proud to say that we've launched our first AIMS program in a district school, District 29 school this year. We have our 958 school that was launched through the Innovative School Program. This was the first instance where we've had a superintendent come forward and say that they want to operate AIMS in their for students to get access to this program in their home district. We are wrapping our arms around this program and want to ensure that it's successful in this coming school year, and are also going to be working hard to increase access to inclusive preschool special education programs as an area that we are really going to focus on, and making sure that those programs are of the highest quality. And so those are 6 areas that we are really thinking about spending a good amount of time ensuring that we're really successful on in this upcoming school year. I heard a lot of great ideas already tonight, specifically around progress monitoring, and I am going to seek to find some way to include that here, because I hear that that's an area that we really need to strengthen our work around. And I wanted to just pause there, and I know I said 8:15, but I wanted to kind of give this back to the council at this point for any thoughts, reactions. Are we on the right track, wrong track, and go from there.
I really appreciate that, and I would encourage us all as a council to take a look at the 2 slides and really take a look at that graphic. I just had a couple of things that I wanted to start with, which was in a way starting with the end, which is the inclusivity piece, because I feel like it's connected to the previous 2 in many ways. And so I appreciate and I look forward to looking at the kinds of training that special education and service providers will get. But it does feel to me like if we're going to truly create an inclusive system, that kind of training needs to all teachers need to participate in that kind of training. You probably knew I was going to say that, right? That there's we continue to operate in this way where there are sort of 2 school systems, really 3 if you count District 75. And this is going to connect to my next comment, and so I'm hoping that we can start to, I know one of our council members before the meeting, we were talking, Diana and I, and she was talking about the need to bring students who don't have IEPs into the conversation, right? To understand students with disabilities. And I think the same is true of students in gen ed, right? The idea that we still split gen ed and special ed to me is one of the biggest barriers to a truly inclusive school system. And so I'm hoping that kind of training, I don't know exactly what it is, I'm sure we'll find out more about it, but the kinds of trainings that are going to create more inclusive spaces will also include gen ed teachers, so that we start to break down that split. And to that end, I think it's great to hear that a district school is bringing in these specialized programs, but I can't help think about District 75 and the fact that we already have a system where we have community schools that have a specialized special education program, and in a way it just sort of encourages more segregation. And so I can see both sides to that coin, right? Yes, we need schools, we need these schools to be, we need programs in schools, but we also need the programs to be part of the schools that they're located in. We know that is something that's very tricky with District 75 schools and often doesn't happen. Most District 75 students still go in through separate doors, have separate start times, all of that kind of stuff. So as we create more specialized programs and we bring them into community schools, I'm hoping that we also do the work of helping people understand that it is all one community. And then my final comment is just about UDL. I think you've heard me say this before. I'm very excited about UDL. I think UDL is really amazing. My fear, however, is given what we already know about the way the way teachers tend to think about accommodations already and think about IEPs, that we really just emphasize that UDL at all times is a floor, not a ceiling. And it never, ever, 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 ever negates the individualization that a student needs. And so I'm just hoping that as we continue that conversation, that we keep some of those things in mind. So that's my just immediate feedback, having just heard this for the first time. Any other council members want to, I mean, if you want to respond, that's fine, but I'm also, we can open it up.
I'd like to continue to hear. I appreciate that feedback, Francine, and it's noted. And I'd like to give the rest of the council an opportunity to share their thoughts as well.
Sorry, we were having a hard time with the volume here. Could you say that again?
I would just say that I appreciate that feedback, and it's very well noted, and I think it's all very important flags, and I'd like to give an opportunity for the rest of the council to share their feedback as well.
Okay. So I think Tamira, Mark, and then Heather.
Thank you, John. I appreciate that. On that, are you able to pull up the slides again, the lever 1, 2, and 3 specifically? I just had a question, comment about that section. Thank you, appreciate it. So lever 1, or sorry, it's actually citywide instructional priority. Every child must have a high quality academic experience that leads to deeper learning. So when we're talking about progress reporting and progress monitoring, this is what we're talking about. You can't have that access to a high quality experience, academic, social experience, without that sort of progress monitoring and reporting, right? So when we're thinking I know for myself, when I think about the IEP is one part of the scaffolding for an individual with a disability or with disabilities, right? It's a quality of life issue. So when we're talking about the trajectory of someone's life, when you talk about how things have changed since the inception of IDA, we were talking about quality of life, and that starts for many in school with the IEP. And so this is why it's essential that we're checking in with, you know, parents and family members, that, you know, the teams, the school-based teams are progress monitoring and actually reporting and saying, hey, this is how we're assessing your child. This is what's going on. Not you didn't, you know, you're not advancing, or you're not meeting your goals, or something really, really vague. So to me, when you have these levers, they all sound great, but how am I supposed to know that this is actually happening with my child, right? If the communication and the transparency is just not, it's just not there. And so I would think that within these levers, within this main slide, like, you're talking about critical thinking skills, you're talking about problem solving skills. What I'm not hearing is independent thinking skills, right? Independent critical thinking skills. And for that to happen, for our kids to be independent, like in transit, you know, and moving around the city and mobility, also that independent thinking, that also needs to be part of how an IEP is written, the quality of the writing of the IEP, then the quality of the progress monitoring, right? Because that's how we know that IEP is actually in place and it's actually happening. I've seen beautiful IEPs, like the most amazingly written IEPs ever. That's it. That's where the beauty ends. And so if we can just get back to this piece of it, John, like, I'd really appreciate some sort of real accountability, you know, and uniformity across all districts on how this is happening, and real training. I mean, the money looks like it's going out the window, but I think that this all comes back to staff training and more faculty development and ongoing faculty development to make this slide come to fruition for our children.
Did you pronounce it Tamara?
No, it's Tamira.
Tamira. Yeah, I really appreciate you helping me align this so neatly. And, you know, as I had mentioned there, you know, what you said earlier resonated with me, and, you know, I shared at the close there that I'd like to find some way to include progress monitoring. And I think that you said there around, how do we know that every child has a high quality academic experience? You're exactly right. We know that by ensuring that they're meeting their IEP goals, and that we're regularly progress monitoring and reporting that to parents. So, you know, I think that what you said is right on point, and I'm going to bring that back and find some way to incorporate that here. And how do we get it done is establishing it as a priority. And so it's one of the reasons that I wanted to temperature check our priorities with the group today. I hope that, you know, as the council develops here, I'm hoping that we will develop some shared priorities and use some of our time together here in our calendar meetings to push forward our priorities, and want to continue to talk to the council about that as things unfold.
I just want to quickly add to just this piece of the conversation, which is that I feel like in order to understand this idea about priority goals and meeting IEP goals, I can't help but think that the devil is also in assessment and how we assess students. how much we standardize those assessments or not. And so I feel like that is not a conversation we often, I think, have in this space about assessments and how assessments are harming our kids. I know that's on the table a lot with the state right now in terms of the graduation requirements. But so I'm hoping that's something that we can also bring into the conversation in the future. I noticed that we are actually out of time. I do appreciate you staying the extra time, John. I'm sure that we are gonna set up another time because I'm sure we have more questions. And we appreciate you muddling through that. I can't say enough, the the technology problems tonight.
I'm not worried about that, and I know we have a lot of work to do, and you know, I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that you have a partner in me in making sure that we get this done right for kids. It's a very, very, very important year, and we, you know, with these with the council recommendations coming out, it's our time to really chart a new path for kids, and I couldn't be more excited to have such great advocates on this council right now to help us to get this work done. And so I appreciate you all, and you know, I'll stop by very quickly to say goodbye, but I just want to thank you for all of your work and looking forward to working with everybody here this school year. So thank you.
Great, thank you, John. And I'm also really hoping that we can get the word out more and have more public participation. I think we've had a slow start this year, so I'm looking forward.
Sha and I are here to work with you on that. Absolutely, we're going to make that happen.
All right, great. Have a good night, and thank you.
All right,
again.
you too.
So it is, the time is 8:27. We have several more things on our agenda. I'd like to propose that we take items 5, the committee reports, 6, unfinished business, and the budget and committee formations, and that we table those until our next meeting on October 5th. So if people agree with that, can somebody please make a motion to table committee reports, unfinished business, the budget, and committee formations?
Can I just say that I agree with everything except for the committee reports, because we have to, my understanding is we have to re-engage the mandatory committee reports, which would be the IEP and the annual meeting.
We have to, we are standing committees are the IEP conference committee and the annual report committee. I don't, no, it's not a standing committee. We have to, so any committees that are not standing committees in our bylaws, we have to reform those committees. I don't disagree that it's important, but I don't think the difference between now and October 5th is going to make a big difference. And also,
No, we need to approve the budget because I'm in my room.
okay, all right.
And we need.
Okay, let's start with this. Let's start with committee reports.
Thank you. Thank you, Sha.
Bye-bye. So,
Okay, so what do you need me to motion to do?
well, we need to motion the committee formation and the committee reports until October 5th, because in order to form committees, we need to have chairs and we need to set goals. Right, and we have 31 minutes left in this debate. Okay, so can somebody please make a motion to table the committee reports and the committee formation?
I make a motion to table the committee reports and the committee formation until our October 5th meeting.
Can we just do a voice vote? Okay, so all in favor of tabling the items until October 5th?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. We will table the committee reports, the committee formations, and I don't even remember what the second thing was. The items mentioned to October 5th. Unfinished business is the 23-24 meeting schedule. I think we should also table that until October 5th. So can I get a motion to table the unfinished business meeting schedule to October 5th?
I place a motion to move the unfinished business section to October 5th.
Can I get a second?
I second.
Okay, voice vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Huh? Okay, so let's do that under new business.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to new business. I have one piece of new business I would like to throw out there. It's a very simple one. We talked about it already. I would like there to be a Google Drive that belongs to the CCSE that we all have access to so that we can open up a spreadsheet where we can start planning our meetings for the year. I would also like us to have a contact sheet so that we can share what phone number and I would say with phone number and email is best. I know, I'm sorry, I keep making mistakes on yours. And also what time of day is best for people to communicate, because some of us are available during the day, some in the evening. And so sometimes it feels like maybe we're not talking to each other, but really we're just on different schedules. So I think Rose is going to make that happen for us. Carolyn?
I just wanted to make a motion to, or rather a vote for our next meeting on October 5th to start at 6:30 because many of us have issues getting here by 6 o'clock.
Can we do that for now without? Okay.
Right.
So
Okay, so
somebody-
I will
so-
amend it and say all of the October meetings, which encompass the business and calendar meetings, to start at 6:30 so that all members could meet on time.
Okay, so the motion is for the October business and calendar meetings to start at 6:30 instead of 6. Can I get a second?
I second that.
Okay, we can do a roll call, a voice vote, right? All in favor of moving the October meeting? So we have to do roll call? Oh, sorry, my bad.
Diana, we are going to start the October business and calendar meetings at 6:30.
Yes.
Sharon Castro,
Yes.
Heather Bailey,
Yes.
Samira Lee. Yes. Maggie Sanchez.
Yes.
Nico Hernandez.
Yes.
Shannon Terrell. Yes. Mark Gonzalez.
Yes.
So we have, very good.
Okay, so motion passes. Our October 5th and what is it, 17th? Our October meetings will be at 6:30. Okay. Any other new business anybody would like to bring to the table? Lupe, you look like you have new business on your face.
I'm like, I was gonna like, bring it up, but the busing strike. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do we, as a council, we like to do for this community, because this could happen
Mhm.
Yeah.
before our next meeting, and so maybe we can just.
Yeah, so the last updates that I have, I'm gonna put PIST NYC in they have a really good like web page about what's going on and resources. There are Parents to Improve Student Transportation. And they've really done a lot of work around this, and they're in a unique position because they're not like connected to DOE. They're able to really also advocate alongside the union in a way that we don't really have the same access. But I will say that the strike affects any drivers and matron staff that are a part of Amalgamated Transit Union, Local 1181. And they have been negotiating, they're out of contract actually, they've been negotiating for a while, and they actually sent letters, the union sent letters to parents, basically not saying a date for a strike, but like, we've been negotiating, nothing's moving, we want to provide the best service to your children, but we also need to feed our families and be paid fairly. So, and that's usually the first step in really moving towards making a decision to strike. So, it's going to be very challenging. They've created rideshare for folks, which is not a good solution. We want our bus drivers to have that money, not Uber, And so that doesn't work. We all know that not all of our children can travel by public transit. They'll give Metro cards. So the solutions that they're offering us are the solutions they always offer us that don't work. And we're just trying to, as a council, I think, put in the perspective that, you know, everybody is freaking out because this feels like a crisis because of a strike, but this is a crisis that's been going on for decades with busing. Like this is the same stuff. Like, I don't know many people in my circle whose kids have gotten to school on time since the first day of school. Ever. This is the first year I didn't have to take my kid to school in a cab the first day because the bus actually came, which was amazing because it's tradition that we take a cab the first day of school. But I'm just hearing all over the board the trends that I'm seeing is because of a lack of drivers. They've made the routes longer. Routes are serving multiple schools. My son's bus route serves 3 different schools. And there's just no way to get kids to school on time and keep them under the 90 minutes suggested time for in borough. And everybody's just frustrated and we've really hit a wall. I'm not seeing a lot of movement to resolve things. They resolve the problem for the loudest parent and then they put that problem on another parent and until that parent raises hell and then they move it to another parent by just moving kids from route to route and just kind of playing musical chairs with the routes that are already too long. I want to also make it clear that the CCSE stands with drivers. This is not a driver issue. This is a routing issue. It's an OPT issue. And the mayor has come out and said that this is something that the bus companies need to resolve with their drivers. And yet the mayor cares about schools. Anyway, and then he's marching on the picket line with the Writers Guild of America, who's also striking. So like he picks and chooses what unions he wants to support. He supports his Police Benevolent Society and he supports the Writers Guild, but won't stand up for our bus drivers that serve our most vulnerable students. And that's not okay. So at the end of the day, I'll speak for myself. I personally hold the mayor accountable if these bus companies strike because he is in control of the schools under mayoral control and he needs to step up. And that's, I don't know if the rest of the council agrees with me on that, but he needs to use his leverage to make sure our drivers and our matrons get a fair and equitable wage, a living wage, and employment protections. And that's just what it is. So when your bus goes on strike, your bus driver is on strike, we want to support the drivers, call the bus company and complain. Call the mayor's office and complain. You can reach out to the public advocate, get help at advocate.nyc.gov, call 311, talk to journalists when they reach out for parents who want to speak about the busing problems. Because, and I'll steal from Paulette, our old council president, like shame is our only tool at this point, so we really need to highlight this as an issue to the mayor, really hold him accountable for what he's allowing to have happen.
I just, Heather, wanna ask if you can give your understanding of the Metro cards and how they were said to be an alternate for students, but weren't actually provided enough quantity.
Okay, so Metro cards, we found out, again, like every year, were not delivered to schools on time. We heard stories about kids being ticketed for fare evasion on the first day of school. If you are a high school student who got stopped by the police or didn't get your Metro card on time, please reach out to the CCHS. They are there to help you to resolve those issues. Some of their members have even said they will help you fight your ticket. So you should reach out to them directly if you were ticketed for fare evasion or for theft of service on the first day of school or the first week of school. So we just want to put that out. We'll drop their email in the chat. We also, the other thing with Metro cards, which is really disappointing, is so general education students get a weekly, they get their Metro cards all in a bunch for like at one time, right? If they ask for them. The way they're doing Metro cards for the busing issue is the parent has to go and request one every single time they need one, which is just ridiculous. Rideshare also doesn't work because you have to ride with your child. If you have multiple children, it has to be scheduled in advance. And you know, it just, these are not solutions that work. So I don't know what to say, you know, we're all kind of, this is my motto, we're rowing in the same boat.
What as a council, I mean, I know,
Yeah.
you know, our power as a council is resolutions.
Yeah.
I think at the very least, a resolution.
We can collect data.
Right, as you have been doing. I think that as I hear it, it's like there are sort of two things on the table. One is the immediate crisis in front of us, which is the busing strike, in which I agree. I think most people agree, you know, we stand with unions and we stand with workers. And then there's the other piece of it, which is that strike or no strike, all of the issues
Busing
you're
is a
talking
mess
about are
anyway.
the issues that are always the issues. And so it feels like we need to address both of those things. I see Lupe. I just want to also add, as I always add, which is that for District 75 students, this is just general, this is just general
how it
practice.
is all the time.
General practice. The
months.
busing committee at District 75 hears stories that would just absolutely just, you know, raise your hair. And so I want to, you know, that's the ongoing issue, right? Is that we could, even if we avert this crisis or we fix this crisis, we still have the actual crisis. There was something else that you said, but I can't remember what it was that I was going to respond to. So Lupe, please feel free.
I was going to add, as far as the impact of our students, I think there's this misconception that only ATU bus companies will be impacted. And I just want to remind families that unfortunately, many, and we'll call them for-profit bus companies share the same bus slots. And they're not from the same unions. So you may have a bus company that is, their contracts are fine, they're not being impacted, but they will not be able to get their bus out if they share a lot with one of the bus companies that, and again, this is not an attack on those that will be picketing, because we have been saying for 20 years that this is not sustainable, because these for-profit bus companies have been paid millions, if not billions of dollars, at least depending on what budget line we're talking about, but they're getting enough money and the quality of service is not being rendered to our students. And long-term goal for this council to think about in this next 2 years is these contracts for these for-profit bus companies are expiring or ending in the next couple of years. And we need to go high water in expanding the not-for-profit bus company that we do have, expanding those routes, and just working these fleets back under DOE, New York City Public Schools. It makes zero sense that the amount of money that we spend on this service and communities like D75 and beyond, not suffer these same busing issues every single day, every year. Like,
we also need to hold the PEP accountable, because they vote on the contracts, they approve the contracts, they are appointed majority by the mayor, and we need to hold them accountable too. They're allowing this to happen by constantly approving contracts with bus companies that have shown year after year to be unable to provide service for our students.
So
auditing.
In the interest of time, do we want to say that somebody want to volunteer to draft a resolution that we can deliver to the next PEP meeting? So why don't we, Heather and Lupe, I feel like you have the most knowledge about the contract and the ins and outs. Does that feel? And I feel like the other, you know, so maybe something to think about. I know there was just recently a busing town hall. I mean, I feel like that's one of the other things the council can do is convene spaces where people can speak. And so maybe we want to talk about that at the next meeting. But I think I think a resolution to the PEP, and then also as best as we can, delivering it to the PEP and amplifying it. Maggie, did you? Sorry, I forgot to look this way.
Going back to the Metro cards, I just also want to highlight the students in temporary housing. As a previous family in temporary housing, I can tell you that the Metro card issue highlighted by Heather is sort of the norm for students in temporary housing. So if we can add that to any resolution or anything that we would like to add, that needs to change. Students with disabilities in temporary housing are the most affected. They're the most vulnerable, and it's not accessible. The system as a whole is not accessible to students with disabilities in temporary housing or their families, particularly busing, particularly issues with busing, particularly issues with the programs that they attend, and MetroCards is a huge one. Personally, I can say this publicly that my son and I were, this is hard to talk about, but I will say it because I know that I'm not the only family that that goes through this. We were evicted from a domestic violence shelter because I had the audacity to ask for MetroCards, for weekly MetroCards. So that is real. That happens all the time in our city. Asylum seekers, families of migrant families are living through that hell right now. The shelters are overrun, and especially if there's no equitable access to language access, information in their language, then these families are the ones that just systematically, are not served equitably. And so, yes, I would like to put that in an agenda or the resolution.
Thank you. My battery's about to die, but well, I'm still here. Thank you. So we're gonna draft a resolution that we can discuss at the next meeting on October 5th. It will include, I think MetroCards is part of this conversation and also a bigger conversation as well. There are also special education schools, as you know, that students have to ask for the MetroCards every day. They don't get the same MetroCards as everybody else. There's all kinds of things. It's very heartening to hear an expansion of the travel training program, because I think one of the best ways that we can save students from busing is to help them learn how to navigate the system. And so the more students that we can do that, the less we rely on the bus companies. Shannon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so I do want to say that the people in charge convened meetings where they brought parents in to speak. Many people here were there. And these are things that came up and people said this out loud. I mean, I want to just really amplify the fact that we were in a space with probably over $1 million worth of salaries, asking us about what solutions we thought about, right? And these are exactly the things that came up. I would love to hear more about the parent created tracking system. I mean, so it is not lost on me that we do this job volunteer, and there are people making buckets of money, in my opinion. Right. So there were about 6 or 7 people on that call. So do the math, asking us for solutions and then not enacting them. I mean, let's also add that we spend a lot of time being asked for solutions that do not get enacted.
I will say everything that has been implemented thus far since the summer has been reactionary to our suggesting and asking, like sending the families letters.
And that feels like maybe what the resolution should be based on, is this idea about here are actually the solutions, right? Because we do have them, and the issues that people are raising. So we're good on that. Any other
addition to what you're saying, because it reminded me that in the last term, we did write a MetroCard resolution.
Yeah, we did. And we wrote a busing one.
And a busing. And what I feel we need to do in this council is accountability. We need to find out where those resolutions went. I believe they went to the PEP. I don't know. But we need to find out where they went and what actions have been taken. Because we can write resolutions every year on the year. If they do nothing with those resolutions, it's not making a dent.
So this is something that we need to think about going. No.
Or did anyone from the
No,
respond?
nobody has.
Apparently, as with their administration, or maybe within the year, that they started responding to council members' resolutions, and it was appropriate that they had. That was part of their accountability. Clearly picking through.
Yeah, and we have his.
Responded to that.
Yeah, they
I will
have it.
say, I will respond, Lupe, and say that I don't know, we were under different leadership last term. We have
don't
to
even know
inquire.
what. Okay, so I just want to reel this in just for a minute because we have 10 more minutes and we still have to vote on the budget. So if we could, we have a plan. When we get the Google Drive up, you could put the resolution for us to start looking at. So people can make comments on before we come to the meeting. I think that would be a great idea. I'm sure we're gonna have to make some changes for it. And I think the issue of accountability for things that we've asked for is also something that will come up when we talk about our annual report. And many of the things, we tend to bring up a lot of the same issues over and over again. And I think this year is a good year for us to move towards getting some answers to where some of those questions have gone. So I'd like to move on to the budget. So we need to approve our budget. Somebody just take me through this. I know that we're gonna end up probably making changes to the budget at some point, but we need to approve it to get it in place. Yeah, right. Yeah. So for new members who may not be aware, everybody, just to let you know, you are entitled to a certain amount of reimbursements for childcare, for transportation. Diana, I'm gonna confirm this with you, but the internet reimbursement, I know when we were online, it was for everybody. My understanding is that you are still entitled to it because we attend so many other meetings online. So you are entitled to a certain amount of reimbursement for your internet, childcare, transportation, conferences, things related to the work of the council. If you have any questions, just run them by Rose. Is the
Well,
expert.
yes, I want to let everyone know that your maximum for the month is 125. So everything that she just mentioned that you can get reimbursed for has to add up to 125. 75. So maximum for internet is 75. You'll have $50 left. Right, exactly. Exactly. So,
All right, so not someone to motion to approve the 2023.
you can read it. Yes.
Well, yeah, no, the
There's no resolution. No resolution. No resolution. No, no, no. Right. There's no resolution. We don't need a resolution for this now. I found that out. No. Yes. Yes. Okay, we are voting to accept the 2023-2024 proposed budget. Diana Abrams. Francine Almash.
Yes.
Carolyn Castro.
Yes.
Heather Daly. Tamira Reed. Maggie Sanchez. Lupe Hernandez. Shannon Terrell. And Mark Gonzalez, yes. Okay, we have a majority vote. Thank you.